I want to show you what China has in the meanwhile actually been doing. It's not like they've been sitting pretty and saying, you've come across the line of actual control and harmed us. Take a look. I'm going to show you the first high-resolution pictures of the combat zone on the south banks of the Pangong So since the August 29th actions. Take a look at these pictures, ladies and gentlemen. The first high-resolution pictures south of the Pangong So shows the build-up by China. These images are the first high-resolution pictures. They were taken by Maxar's Worldview satellite on September the 7th, the night of those actions. And what these pictures really establish is that the Chinese have been saying one thing and, of course, doing another. The interesting thing to note here is the Indian Army was well aware of the Chinese actions, the aggressions in the South Pangong area, and that's the reason for the preemptive measures taken by the Indian Army. Take a look at these satellite images. They will tell you the first visual story of what's going on. Can the two foreign ministers break the standoff? As the spotlight intensifies on this crucial meeting in Moscow, on the ground, as always, the sobering reality of Chinese duplicity on full display. India now speaks from a position of strength, reinforced by decisive actions since late August. But now we show you visual evidence of aggressive Chinese actions. The first set of high-resolution satellite imagery since the Indian Army's preemptive actions on the south bank of Ladakh's Pangong Lake shows an extremely fluid situation. To begin with, they totally debunk Chinese claims that the Indian Army crossed the line of actual control. These high-resolution images from September the 7th are by Maxar's Worldview satellites. Earlier, the PLA's Western Theatre Command issued a statement, remember, accusing the Indian Armed Forces of crossing the line of actual control. While there are no visible signs of occupation of the peak called Helmet Top Mountain by either forces, images show the presence of a cluster of Chinese military vehicles and camouflaged tents at the bottom of the mountain. The tracks to the empty Helmet Top are seen leading from the Chinese side. What these images also establish is China has been reinforcing its boasts and building up, even while aggressively accusing India of transgressions. Across the Pangong Lake on the north shore, the Fingers complex too, there are significant changes. On the north bank of the lake, the Chinese army seems to have vacated some of the ridgeline positions at Finger 4. The new images show that the spots seen occupied by the People's Liberation Army in earlier images are now vacant. As earlier reported by India Today, the Chinese army has vacated the shores of Finger 4 areas but continues to build up additional infrastructure between Finger 5 and Finger 8. The distance between the new Chinese positions and Finger 4 flashpoint is almost 1.7 kilometers. The Chinese build-up on the shores of Finger 5 include a mix of more than 20 armor-protected vehicles and heavy military vehicles. Additional Chinese tents and camouflage material can also be seen on the shores of Finger 5. The Chinese build-up also indicates that the PLA could be preparing for a long haul in this area. The new developments also validate India Today's newsbreak a week ago on the Indian Army's move to take dominant positions at and near Finger 4. But the big takeaway from these pictures is clear. The Chinese remain in strength and haven't scaled down their build-up even a little. With Ankit Kumar and Colonel Vinayak Bhatt, Bureau Report, India Today. Okay, so there have been actions by the Chinese where they've pulled back troops in some areas, but they have stayed put. Now remember the Fingers area, which is the north bank of Pangong So. This is that famous beach where a lot of the fighting actually happened. Now it appears that the Finger 4 is actually vacant at this time, but the Chinese build-up between Finger 5 and Finger 8, which is also, remember, claimed by India, has not happened. In fact, they're there in even greater strength at this point of time. And in fact, Abhishek Bhalla has also been reporting that the Indian Army, Abhishek, has taken some dominant positions in the Finger Four area as well, giving India a little bit more of an advantage than it used to be last month. Take us through that, because the Chinese may have moved away from Finger Four, but they have no plans of leaving the Fingers area.
Shiv, on the evening of 8th September, that is exactly 24 hours after that incident that took place north of Rezangla, where the Chinese resorted to firing in the air, there was a massive build-up by the Chinese in the Finger area. This was reported by India Today when this development took place. And what I learned was that around Finger 5 and Finger 4, there was a massive build-up. A lot of troop movement was seen. Some new structures were coming up. And all this came in range of the Indian troops, because they too had dominated some heights in these areas, as we've reported before. And it's a short range from where the Indian troops can actually see the Chinese. And things remain very tense, although there hasn't been a sort of a face-off here or any kind of a skirmish. But the kind of build-up that's happening, even though there is no violence, it indicates that the Chinese are perhaps trying to do something different, because they have been pushed to a corner, especially in the southern bank, and also with the Indian army dominating some heights around Finger 4, Finger 3. That could also be very crucial to keep a close watch on Chinese movements, and that's exactly what has happened.
Abhishek Bhalla, thank you very much for joining me on this latest, on that latest crucial update. And in fact, I want to visualize for you with these latest satellite maps exactly what Abhishek is talking about. Take a look. This is the Finger 4 ridge line. These were areas where the Chinese had set up semi-permanent positions, as we reported to you first. But now some of these areas are vacant. This was part of that so-called disengagement process, and they have begun moving back from that area now. That's why the Indian army has been able to take up position there. Now, this is an area between Finger 4 and Finger 5, where the Chinese may have moved back a little bit from Finger 4, but take a look at this. Lots of vehicles, lots of Humvees, tentage and equipment, all very, very visible between Finger 4 and Finger 5, which basically means the Chinese have tried to hoodwink India into saying, okay, we'll pull back a little bit from Finger 4 to Finger 5, but they have reinforced their presence between Finger 4 and Finger 5 with all this equipment. Much more. Take a look at this. Satellites miss nothing. Big tents, possible vehicles, new boat facilities, and all of this is between Finger 4 and Finger 5. There are more such pictures. Take a look once again between Finger 4 and Finger 5, tentage, and this is September the 7th. Make no mistake, these are the latest images that we're showing you. So these are not some dated Google Earth images. These are Maxar images from September the 7th, which shows you that the Chinese may have thinned out some of their troops on the north bank, but ultimately they are staying there for the long haul. Tents, military vehicles, all manner of equipment. So this may have been their larger game plan, ladies and gentlemen, but make no mistake about one thing. The Chinese are very angry, and that's thanks in full part to the Indian Army's preemptive actions that began on August the 29th. And I can promise you that those actions haven't stopped just yet, and they are in more places than meets the eye. Here's why China is so angry. In the 4 months of this simmering standoff, China has never sounded this angry, this irritated, and clearly cornered. The Indian Army's actions on the night of August 29th have given the Chinese army a taste of its own medicine. But there are very real, very specific reasons why China is feeling the heat south of Pangong. The Indian forces are currently in control of Black Top and Helmet Top, two dominant heights just south of the Pangong Lake. The Army's swift and sharp preemptive action on the intervening night of the 29th to 30th of August has ensured that it is advantage India. And this means that the Chinese positions in the area are directly in India's line of sight. An even bigger worry for China is that now all its entry points across the line of actual control are completely blocked. With a clear view of the Chinese post-SAN deployment and two successful bids at thwarting Chinese attempts at creeping up on the strategic hills in Pangong South, there is for now no threat to the Indian positions. In fact, India has now given China a taste of its own medicine. With these tactical positions, Indian forces can inflict massive damage on China within minutes if the situation escalates. At least 7 PLA positions are now in India's direct line of sight. Indian posts at heights can guide artillery, and this means that Chinese posts and tanks can be destroyed within minutes. Chinese gun positions too can be smashed at short notice. With India at an advantageous position, PLA bases, camps, supply lines are also fully vulnerable. Even the smallest movements by Chinese posts now will be 100% visible to India. Another reason that has China seeing red is India's decision to deploy the Special Frontier Force. It was this regiment that pushed back the Chinese as they attempted to intrude on Saturday night. The Chinese were clearly caught off guard by the Special Frontier Force, consisting mostly of Tibetan resistance fighters, and operates under the Indian Research and Analysis Wing. The use of Tibetan commandos is seen by China as a deliberate intent to humiliate and a political assault. All of this combined has been a strategic, tactical and political slap to China, a country that has, after a very long time, been dealt with in the only currency it understands: cunning strength, dominant action and with zero compromise. In New Delhi, Shiv Arur for India Today.